The human who bonded with two royals. Now the galaxy bows or burns. The night over Verax looked calm. The sky was deep blue with thin gold veins. Towers glowed like sleeping fires. The palace breathed like a living thing. It should have been peaceful. It was not. Jackson stood on the high balcony. Wind moved his hair. He held the rail and watched the city below. People walked softer now. They spoke in low voices, as if the air could hear secrets. Since the children were born, everything felt new and fragile, as if one wrong sound could break the world. Kale and Nara played in the garden below. They were small, but they were not like other children. Kale watched the stars and hummed a sound no one could name. Nara touched the water and made ripples that formed pictures. The pictures told stories from worlds no one had visited yet. The guards pretended not to stare. They stared anyway. Sorexa stepped onto the balcony beside Jackson. She wore no crown tonight, only a white wrap at her shoulders. She looked tired but steady. "You should sleep," she said. "I will," he said. He did not move. She followed his gaze to the city. "You feel it too," she whispered. He nodded. "Something is wrong. It's quiet, but not the good kind." At first, the change was small. Lamps on the lower streets blinked once. Then again, a slow wave rolled toward the palace like a shadow. Music stopped in the sky plazas. Birds froze mid-flight. The wind forgot how to blow. Nara looked up, curious. Kale stood and turned his head, as if listening to a faraway bell. "They are early," he said. Sorexa stiffened. "Who?" Kale did not blink. "The ones who count endings." Alarm chimes began to ring inside the palace. The crystal floors dimmed. Guards rushed to the garden. Eilina ran out from the inner halls, breath sharp. "Shields up," she shouted. The palace skin brightened, then flickered. The glow fought something that could not be seen. Jackson moved fast. He reached the garden in 3 long strides. Inside, he told the children. "Now." Nara shook her head. Her small hand touched his wrist. "Warm. Steady. If we hide, they will come deeper," she said. "It is better if we stand where the sky can see us." He hated that she was right. He hated that a child had to say it. Above the palace, the stars went silent. Not dark. Silent. Their light arrived, but it carried no heat. The city held its breath. Then a line appeared across the sky, as thin as a cut. The line widened. A second horizon opened. Through it, a shape drifted, a ship shaped like a question mark and a blade. Its hull was not metal. It looked like memory. It hurt to look at. Sorexa spoke first. "The Archivist Court," she said. "We were told they died long ago." "They archive what they call mistakes," Eilina said. "They file them in cold light until the world forgets." A voice fell from the sky, soft and flat. It sounded like a reader in an empty library. "Verax, present the anomaly. Present the human and the twins. Present them for indexing." Jackson stepped forward. He felt fear and pushed through it. "No," he said. His voice echoed down the city's spine. Silence answered. Then the voice again. Refusal noted. Phase 1 quiet. The ship did not fire. It only hummed. The sound touched every tool, every wire, every lens. Lights died. Doors stuck. Engines forgot their names. The palace dimmed to a soft shell. The guards' weapons slept in their hands. Nara squeezed Jackson's fingers. "Do not fear," she told him. "We can breathe without machines." Kale lifted his chin. His eyes glowed gold. He raised a hand toward the ship. The humming cracked for a second. You could hear the crack, like ice breaking. But the hum returned, deeper now. Kale's small body trembled. "They are big," he whispered. Jackson knelt and pulled both children close. "You don't have to be bigger," he told them. "You only have to be us." The ship's voice fell again. Phase 2, edit. A beam of pale light unrolled from the ship. It did not burn. It erased. The beam slid toward the palace walls, and where it touched, details vanished. Carvings, names, dates, painted stars, all turned smooth and blank, as if they had never been there. Eilina gasped. "They're taking the story." Sorexa stepped forward. She lifted both arms. Her crown flared into being on its own, a white flame without smoke. "You will not touch my line," she said. Her words shook the gardens. The beam hesitated, but only for a heartbeat. Jackson looked at Kale. "Can you break it?" Kale shook his head. "It breaks things like me." Nara stared at the erasing light. Her eyes filled with storm gray. "Then we will not fight the beam," she said. "We will give it too much to hold." She let go of Jackson's hand and pressed both palms to the floor. Flowers opened at her feet. Not a few. Not a circle. A sea. Colors rushed out across the garden, up walls, over towers, spilling into streets. Petals carried memory. Each bloom whispered a name, a laugh, a song, a promise. The beam touched the flood of life and slowed. It tried to erase the flowers. More flowers came. Kale closed his eyes. He breathed in once, slow. I will count, he said. I will count every star that belongs here. He began to speak numbers. Not Earth numbers. Not Verax numbers. Numbers that felt like the first time someone learned to add night to morning. Each count nailed the light back into place. The sky brightened, point by point. The ship tilted. Its hum changed key. The voice returned, not flat now, but sharp. Phase 3. Remove the human. Jackson rose. He did not run. Come then, he said to the empty air. Take me, and see what happens next. 3 thin needles of light shot down from the ship. They moved like thought. Guards leaped and failed. Shields tried and failed. The needles reached for Jackson's chest. They stopped. Not because of a weapon. Because 2 small hands caught them. Kale held 1 needle. Nara held the second. The third hung between them, shaking like a trapped fly. The children looked at Jackson. We are here, they said together. The ship fell silent. The city listened. The night did not breathe. Far beyond the cut in the sky, something old turned its head. It had been sleeping a long time. It began to wake. And on the balcony, with flowers at his feet and silence in his lungs, one human did not step back. He stepped forward. The storm came after silence. It wasn't made of wind or rain. It was made of memory. From the torn sky above Verax, threads of light fell like shattered glass. They moved slowly, almost gently, but wherever they landed, time twisted. A garden flower bloomed and withered in one heartbeat. A guard shouted, and his voice echoed backward, repeating his words before he spoke them. The palace clock spun in both directions at once. Jackson stood still in the middle of it. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. He'd seen war before, seen planets burn. But this was different. This wasn't destruction. It was correction. Someone, or something, was trying to rewrite what had happened. Nara looked up, her eyes flashing silver. It's rewriting the story, she said softly. Sorex's voice broke through the chaos. Everyone inside. Get the Queen's core sealed. Guards ran, dragging energy shields over the doors. But the threads didn't care about walls or metal. They slid through everything like fog through fingers. One touched a statue and erased it. Another touched a soldier and turned him into mist. Eileen pulled Jackson toward the hall. We can't fight that. We have to move. He stopped her. If we run, it follows. If we stand, maybe it listens. Listens, she said, disbelief in her eyes. Jackson pointed at the sky. It's not a weapon, it's a will. Someone up there doesn't want this world to remember us. The words hung heavy. Then Kale whispered, it's the scribes. Everyone turned to him. The boys' eyes were wide, golden light burning inside them. The archivist court are their shadows. But the true writers are older. They write what should be, not what is. The scribes of origin. Sorexa frowned. That's a myth, Kale. He shook his head slowly. No. They wrote the laws of gravity. They wrote your bloodlines. And now they are erasing us because we broke their pattern. Before anyone could reply, the light above twisted, folding into a single point. From that point, a shape began to form. A sphere, glowing like a sun wrapped in letters. The letters moved and changed, becoming faces, then words again. A voice spoke from it. It was not loud, but it filled every ear and mind. Human anomaly. Hybrid deviations. Return the error. Jackson stepped forward. If you mean me, I'm not an error. I helped someone. That's all. Help is not written, the voice said. You have made what cannot exist. Nara floated an inch off the ground, her hair glowing like lightning caught in water. Then maybe you wrote too small. The sphere pulsed. The air turned heavy, pressing down like a hand made of gravity. Jackson dropped to one knee. Kale shouted and held out his hand. The golden light in his eyes spread into the air, forming a pattern, circles within circles, lines that hummed with power. For a moment, the sphere trembled. Then it laughed. It was a sound like dry paper burning. Children of 2 times, it said. You cannot hold the quill that wrote you. Suddenly, the sky cracked open again, this time from below. The ground split. and something vast rose from under the palace. Stone peeled away, revealing metal older than the city itself. It was a machine, no, a monument, rising higher and higher until it reached the clouds. Symbols carved in it glowed faintly, like memories returning. Sorexa gasped. That's impossible. That's the first engine. Jackson turned to her. What is that? The core of Verax, she said. It's what keeps this world alive. It was built by beings before my ancestors learned speech. The sphere of light hovered above it. Yes, the voice said. And now it will unmake what you've done. Energy flared. The first engine began to spin, grinding against time itself. Everything shimmered. The sky, the palace, even Jackson's hands. For a second, he saw through himself. Not bones or blood, memories. Battles. Laughter. Regret. He saw Sorexa crying when she thought he was dead. He saw Eilina teaching Nera to walk. He saw Earth, far away, blue and small. He took a breath and shouted, Stop! I'm not your mistake. I'm your proof that life can change. The spinning slowed. Nera floated higher, her hands glowing. If they wrote the laws, she said, then we will write something new. She and Kale joined hands. The ground shook. The sky bent. The air filled with symbols, not the scribe's words, but new ones, made of color, song, and memory. The sphere screamed. The letters inside it broke apart, spilling light like shattered glass. Then it vanished, burned away by something older than order. Silence fell. The first engine stopped spinning. The stars came back, trembling but alive. Jackson fell to one knee. He looked up at the children. Their eyes were brighter than before, but behind them, there was fear. They'll come again, Kale whispered. The scribes don't forgive. They rewrite. Nera turned to her father. Then we'll need to learn to write faster. Above Verax, the torn sky began to heal, but far beyond, in the cold between galaxies, thousands of glowing eyes opened in the dark. The scribes had noticed. And this time, they would not just erase the story. They would come for the storyteller. The sky healed, but peace did not return. 3 nights had passed since the scribes' attack. The stars glowed the same, but everyone on Verax felt it, the silence that follows a scream. The children barely spoke. Kale spent hours tracing invisible lines in the air, whispering numbers that made walls hum. Nera sat by the palace fountains, staring into the rippling water, sometimes speaking to it as if it could answer. Jackson stayed close. He watched, waited, and wondered if this calm was a lie. Sorexa stood with him on the balcony again, her crown dimmed to a soft ember. They are changing, she said quietly. Not growing, changing. He nodded. They saved us, but I can tell it hurt them. It always hurts when gods are born too early, she murmured. Before Jackson could ask what she meant, the palace lights dimmed again. A low vibration rolled through the air, like the heartbeat of something enormous. Guards shouted from the lower halls. Power surge in the core chamber, someone yelled. Eilina ran toward them, her hair loose, eyes wide. It's the first engine. It's active again, but no one touched it. They rushed inside, through glowing corridors that bent slightly, like the palace was breathing. The core chamber was vast, a cathedral made of metal and crystal. The first engine hovered in the center, slowly spinning. But this time, it wasn't glowing gold, it was bleeding blue light. The color of deep memory. Jackson stopped short. The chamber floor had changed. Strange patterns moved like liquid, forming symbols that resembled eyes. Thousands of eyes. Watching. Nera stood before the engine, small and still. Her reflection shone in the floor's surface. They're not gone, she said softly. They moved below. Kale stood beside her. They're speaking again. Sorexa frowned. Who? The ones who count endings, Kale whispered. But now they want to begin. Before anyone could speak, the engine shuddered. Beams of blue light shot out, not into the air, but into their shadows. Jackson's shadow stretched across the floor, rising, twisting, then blinked. It had eyes. His own eyes. What the hell? He stepped back, but his shadow stayed still, smiling faintly. Eilina gasped. They're copying us. Sorexa raised her arm, ready to summon her crown's energy, but her shadow moved faster, striking her across the chest. She fell to one knee. Her own shadow had strength. The chamber erupted. Guards fought their own silhouettes, shapes made of smoke and color. Swords met darkness. The air smelled like iron and static. Nara raised her hands. "Stop," she shouted, and the whole room froze, except the shadows. They turned their heads toward her in unison. The largest shadow stepped forward, hers. A dark Nara, eyes bright like black suns. "We are not enemies," it said, voice calm but hollow. "We are what you forgot." "What are you?" Jackson demanded. "We are the memories left behind when the scribes rewrote the first time," it said. "You made new words. We are the old ones." Sorexa rose slowly, clutching her side. "You are lies." "No," the shadow Nara said softly. "We are truth that was too dangerous to remember." Then the floor cracked. From the split rose something like a mirror, but alive. Its surface rippled like water, showing flashes of places that were and were not. Earth cities, burning skies, faces Jackson almost recognized. The mirror whispered, in 1,000 overlapping voices. "Do you want to see the story that came before you?" Nara looked at Jackson. "Should we?" He hesitated. "Last time we faced their story, we nearly vanished." "But maybe that's the point," Kale said. "Maybe we were written on top of something older. Maybe we have to see it to understand why they fear us." Before Jackson could stop them, the twins stepped forward together and touched the mirror. Light exploded, not outward, but inward. Jackson felt the pull, as if someone grabbed his name and yanked it into the past. The chamber dissolved. He fell through light and dark, through stars and screams. Then, silence. He stood in a vast plain made of glass. The sky above was white, empty. No stars, no sun, no sound. Just a single towering figure in the distance. It wore robes made of code and eyes that never blinked. It turned slowly toward him. "You are early," it said. "The human who broke the story." Jackson tried to speak, but his voice echoed wrong, like two versions of himself talking at once. "What is this place?" "The page before creation," the figure said, "where the scribes wrote the first lie." He looked around. The ground shimmered, and then he saw it. Billions of faint outlines, like ghosts pressed under glass. Human shapes, alien shapes, all silent, all frozen mid-movement. "What are they?" "Stories," the figure said. "Versions erased to make room for you." He felt something inside his chest twist. "You erased them all." The figure smiled. "We edit for harmony. You are noise." Jackson clenched his fists. "Then I'll be the loudest noise you've ever heard." The figure extended a long, transparent hand. "You misunderstand. You are not outside the story. You are the pen." Suddenly, Jackson's vision fractured. He saw himself, carrying Sorexa through the storm, touching her hand, holding Nara's fingers, each moment glowing like words on a page. Then he saw a quill writing those moments. The quill was his own heart. He gasped. "No, that's not possible." "Oh, it is," the figure said. "But you never asked who handed you the pen." Behind him, two smaller lights appeared. Kale and Nara, their eyes bright, their voices whispering as one. "We did, Father. Because you are not just written into the story. You are how it begins again." The glass plane cracked beneath their feet. The past was breaking. And this time, the scribes were not the only ones who could rewrite. When Jackson opened his eyes, the world was wrong again. The sky above wasn't Verax's violet shimmer. It was pale white, like paper waiting for ink. The ground beneath his boots was alive, covered in tiny crawling symbols that moved when he looked at them. Words. Thousands of them, whispering as they crawled. He was still breathing, but not like before. Every breath sounded like a page turning. Kale and Nara stood beside him, their glow dim but steady. "We crossed the veil," Kale said quietly. "We're inside the script." Jackson frowned. "You mean we're inside the story?" Nara nodded. "Inside the part they erased." They stood on what looked like a plane of glass and letters stretching forever. Shapes moved in the distance, tall, thin beings made of light and shadow, walking in endless circles. "The scribes. They're writing again," Kale said, his voice soft. "But look." Jackson followed his gaze. Each scribe carried a long quill made of bone and starlight. With every step, they dipped it into a glowing pool and wrote on the air. But behind them, smaller shapes followed, shadows with chains around their throats. Erased stories, forced to drag the ink jars. Sorexa's voice broke through the haze. Jackson spun. She was there too, alive, though faint, her form flickering like a reflection on water. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "This place eats everything that has meaning." Jackson reached for her hand, but his fingers passed through. "You're not real." "I'm real enough," she whispered. "A memory of you pulled me across." Her eyes moved toward the horizon. "And they already know you're here." The ground rippled. The crawling words stopped moving. Every scribe turned its faceless head toward them. One of them stepped forward. It was taller than the others, its body made of shifting text that changed every second. "The anomaly has entered the draft," it said. "This cannot continue." Jackson clenched his fists. "You've erased billions of lives just to stay perfect. That ends here." The scribe tilted its head. "You misunderstand. Perfection does not fear life. It edits it." Kale stepped between them, his golden eyes burning. "Then edit this." He raised both hands, and light exploded outward, pure, fierce, human, and alien at once. The words on the ground stopped crawling. They began to burn. The plane glowed like a sunrise made of language. Every erased story flickered, their shapes rising from the chains, whispering names, faces, memories returning to existence. The scribe screamed. It wasn't a sound. It was a feeling of pages tearing. Nara joined her brother, her voice trembling but clear. "We are not written to obey you. We are the ink that thinks," she sang. A soft, human melody Jackson once hummed while fixing an old rover on Aura 7. The tune carried through the plane. The erased shadows lifted their heads, listening. Then they began to hum too. One voice became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. The song filled the air, and with it came color, red, blue, green, gold, painting over the white emptiness. The scribes panicked. "Silence is the rule," one shouted. "Noise destroys the order." Jackson stepped forward. "Then let there be noise." He placed his hand over his heart and felt something pulsing there. A pen. Not metal, not wood, but alive. It glowed faintly through his skin, shaped like a fragment of a star. The tall scribe froze. "Where did you get that?" Jackson smiled faintly. "You gave it to me the first time you erased me." He lifted his hand. The pen floated above his palm, dripping silver light. Every word it touched began to rewrite itself. Lines bending, twisting, forming new sentences. The scribes tried to erase it, but their own quills broke apart, melting into dust. Sorex's fading voice whispered in his mind. "Write, Jackson. Write us a world they can't erase." He closed his eyes and began to write. He wrote about the storm where he found her, about kindness that began everything, about children born of hope and fear. Each word he wrote became a star overhead. Each sentence became a constellation. The sky was no longer white. It was alive again. Kale and Nara watched silently. When he stopped, the tall scribe fell to its knees. "You cannot create permanence," it said weakly. "All stories fade." Jackson looked at his children. "Not if you remember them." The ground trembled. The burning words turned into roots, reaching downward. From beneath the surface, something massive stirred, an ancient presence that had been sleeping since the first word was written. Its voice rose like thunder wrapped in a whisper. "New author detected." The scribes screamed and dissolved into ink. Their light scattered, fleeing into the void. The world of glass cracked again, and Jackson felt himself being pulled upward, back toward Verax, back toward color and air and heartbeat. But as he rose, the deep voice spoke once more. "If you write, you will inherit the burden of endings. Every story you save will ask for another. Do you accept this?" Jackson hesitated. The light of the pen flickered between his fingers. Then he said quietly, "Yes, because stories deserve to live." The voice laughed softly, a sound older than time. "Then write, human. Write until even silence remembers you." The glass world shattered completely. Jackson gasped and opened his eyes back on Verax's balcony. The dawn was real again. The children stood beside him, their hands glowing faintly. But the mark of the pen still burned on his palm, shaped like a scar made of light. Far above, the stars rearranged themselves into new constellations, ones no record had ever known. The universe had been rewritten. And somewhere, in the last corner of the void, a torn page floated. On it, a single phrase written in black flame. "Every author creates an enemy." Morning came quietly to Verax, but the light felt wrong. It shimmered too slowly, bending around corners that didn't exist. The sun rose twice before settling into one. Even the air carried a faint echo, as if the world had become a reflection of itself. Jackson stood alone in the royal garden, staring at the mark on his palm, the mark of the pen. It pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat that wasn't his. Every time it throbbed, words whispered inside his skull, sentences forming and unforming. He couldn't tell if they were his thoughts anymore. Every author creates an enemy. The phrase kept returning, a curse hidden inside a gift. Behind him, Kale and Nara chased sunlight through the floating petals of Verax's endless bloom fields. They laughed, but even their laughter bent strangely, repeating itself a second later in deeper tones, like two voices speaking from different timelines. Sorexa approached quietly, her robe brushing the grass like water. "You haven't slept since you came back." Jackson didn't turn. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, the world keeps rewriting itself." She came closer, touching his shoulder. "You changed the laws, Jackson. That pin you carry, it isn't just a weapon. It's a promise the universe doesn't know how to keep." He looked down at his palm. The mark flickered again, and for an instant, his reflection in the water beside him smiled back, but his lips hadn't moved. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Sorexa's eyes widened. "Yes. Jackson, that's not you." The reflection straightened. Its eyes turned black. Then it spoke, its voice layered, like multiple versions of him echoing from behind glass. "You shouldn't have written. You were meant to read." The air around them cracked. The reflection stepped out of the water, a perfect copy of Jackson, but darker, colder, his veins glowing faint silver. The mark on his palm burned in reverse, a spiral turning inward. Kale ran forward instinctively, energy flaring around his hands. "Father, behind you." Jackson turned, raising his arm. The ground trembled between them, two realities colliding. Their marks pulsed, one bright, one inverted, and the world around them flickered between day and night. "Who are you?" Jackson demanded. The doppelganger smiled faintly. "I'm your editor." Sorexa's crown ignited, filling the air with white fire. "Stay back," she warned. But the shadow Jackson only tilted his head. "You wrote me when you rewrote the story. Every author creates balance. I am your undoing, the one who unwrites." He raised his hand. The air twisted. Flowers folded into dust. Guards fell silent mid-breath, frozen in half-motion. The entire palace turned still, a paused frame in a dying movie. Only Jackson and the twins could move. Nara's eyes flared storm gray. "He's pulling us into his draft." The reflection smiled wider. "Not pulling, merging." The garden vanished. They stood on nothing, an empty plane of light and shadow. Stars hung upside down, and the horizon looped like a ring. Kale whispered, "It's a mirror world." Jackson clenched his fists. "If you're me, then you know how this ends." The reflection stepped closer. "That's the problem. You haven't written the ending yet." Then his voice deepened. "So I'll do it for you." He raised his hand. The sky cracked into letters. Huge glowing words began falling like meteors. Erase, return, reset. Each one struck the ground and burst into shockwaves that shredded the world beneath them. Jackson leapt forward, the mark on his palm glowing. He swung his arm, and a line of light cut through one of the falling words, splitting erase into ease. The explosion stopped instantly. The echo of power rolled away like wind. He realized then, the pen didn't only write, it could edit reality itself. Nara and Kale joined him, each holding a fragment of light from their palms. "We can help," Nara said. "We remember the rules they forgot." Together, they wrote in the air, their words weaving like song. "We exist. We remain. We choose." The words became chains of gold and wrapped around the reflection. For a moment, it screamed, but its voice was still his own. "You can't hold me," it said. "I am what keeps the story clean." Kale shouted back, "Stories don't need to be clean. They need to live." The chains tightened. The mirror cracked. Then, from deep within the void, something else stirred, a voice neither human nor alien. "Enough." The reflection stopped struggling. It looked up, fear flickering in its black eyes. "No, not yet. Not them." The stars bent. A colossal figure descended, made of broken constellations and dust. Its voice was slow and final. "The author has written himself. The page is bleeding. The ledger must be sealed." Jackson's heart froze. "Who are you?" The giant's eyes glowed like burning moons. "The ledger keeper. I record what must not exist." Sorexa's voice echoed faintly through the distortion, distant and terrified. Jackson, whatever you do, don't let him take the pen. But it was too late. The ledger keeper raised a hand, and every star in the mirror sky turned into a letter. Each letter spelled one word, over and over. Delete. The mirror world began to collapse. Cale grabbed his father's arm. Write something. Anything. Jackson's hand shook, the pen mark burning. He pressed it against the air and whispered through clenched teeth. If stories must die, then let this one fight back. The mark flared like a supernova. Light devoured the void. When it cleared, the mirror world was gone, but so was the ledger keeper. Only one sentence floated in the darkness where he'd stood. To save one world, the author must erase another. Jackson fell to his knees, breathing hard. He didn't know what world the words meant, but he could already feel it. Somewhere across the stars, a planet had just vanished, and the war between creation and erasure had only begun. The silence after the storm was unbearable. Verax hung in twilight, neither day nor night, its skies flickering between color and grayscale. The air itself felt thinner, as if the universe had been rewritten and was still deciding what to keep. Jackson stood on the palace balcony, his hands trembling. Below him, entire districts shimmered like mirages. Some buildings looked normal, others glitched, fading in and out of existence. Children played in courtyards that vanished mid-laughter, leaving echoes behind. Sorexa approached, her face pale. The maps are gone, she whispered. Half the star charts just stopped existing. Entire sectors are missing. Eilina ran in from the corridor, holding a glowing scroll. Father, she said breathlessly. The astronomers confirmed it. One world, an entire planet, has disappeared from the galaxy. No explosion, no debris, just empty coordinates. Jackson closed his eyes. The ledger keeper's warning. To save one world, the author must erase another. He clenched his fist, the mark of the pen burning again beneath his skin. I didn't mean to erase anything. I was trying to stop him. Nara stood in the doorway, her eyes reflecting two skies, one blue, one gray. You didn't erase it, Father, she said softly. He made you trade it. Jackson turned. Trade? For what? For us, she whispered. For Verax. He took another world so this one could survive. Cale appeared beside her, carrying an ancient crystal tablet. We found this under the palace vaults. The old records speak of balance. The ledger keeper doesn't destroy, he exchanges. One creation, one deletion. It's his law. Jackson stared at him. Whose law? The law of the unwritten, Cale said. The first beings before the scribes. They built the ledger to keep reality from collapsing under too many stories. Every world that breaks its limits must pay in existence. Sorexa's voice trembled. Then every time you write. Jackson nodded slowly. Another world might die. The realization hit, like a physical blow. The mark on his palm pulsed again, faster this time. He looked down and saw faint images flickering across his skin. Cities he didn't recognize, faces he'd never seen. Entire civilizations passing through him, gone before he could even breathe their names. Eilina took a step back. You're linked to it now, she said. The ledger chose you. Jackson slammed his fist into the railing. Then I'll choose differently. Nara frowned. You can't fight the law. Then I'll rewrite the law, he said quietly. The words made the air tremble. The pen's mark glowed white-hot. Far above, lightning cracked across a starless sky. Silent, endless, wrong. The palace alarms began to howl again. Guards rushed out to the balcony, weapons drawn, pointing to the horizon. Eilina gasped. The rift. Beyond the city, the clouds split like torn fabric, revealing a void, a wound in space, rimmed with golden fire. Inside it, fragments of a lost world swirled. Pieces of cities, oceans, bones of mountains. Ghosts of the erased planet. Cale's eyes widened. That's what was taken, Nara whispered. They're not gone. They're trapped in the space between stories. Jackson didn't hesitate. Then I'm going after them. Sorexa grabbed his arm. You'll die? The rift isn't real space. It's memory. You'll fall through every version of yourself until there's nothing left. He met her eyes. I already lost one world because of what I am. I won't lose another. Nara looked up at him, trembling. If you go, we go too. Cale nodded. You'll need us to find the right thread. The rift answers only to those who can see its words. Sirex's voice cracked. You're just children. Nara smiled faintly. Not anymore. The twins raised their hands. The air shimmered. A circle of light opened around them, a doorway woven from letters of flame. Jackson took a deep breath and stepped inside. The light swallowed them whole. They fell through silence, through memory, through stories that never were. Each heartbeat showed Jackson a different life, himself as a soldier on a burning earth, as a wanderer on an icy moon, as a father who never met his children. Every version faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving behind only one truth. Every story he lived had been written by someone, somewhere. Then light. They landed on solid ground. The air smelled of ash and sea salt. Above them hung a shattered moon. All around, fragments of a planet drifted, floating islands connected by glowing bridges of memory. Nara looked around, awestruck. We're inside the erased world. Kale knelt, touching the ground. The people here, they still exist, but as echoes. Shapes began to appear, translucent figures walking in silence. They didn't see the intruders. They were living their last remembered day. A small child's voice echoed through the ruins. Papa, is the sky broken? Jackson turned. A girl no older than Nara stood at the edge of a cliff, reaching for the shattered moon. Her form flickered like a glitching hologram. Nara's eyes filled with tears. She's still here. Kale frowned. No, she's remembering here. Jackson knelt beside the ghostly child. What's your name? The girl blinked. Asha. He felt a cold realization crawl up his spine. That name, it came from one of the ghost cities flickering on his palm. She was from the world he had traded away. She reached toward him. Are you the one who writes the sky? His throat tightened. Maybe. Then please, she whispered, write it back. The wind howled. The rift quaked around them. Above, symbols began to burn across the stars. The ledger keeper's writing, furious and vast. Unauthorized creation detected. Reality imbalance imminent. Kale shouted over the noise. Father, he's coming. Jackson stood, fire burning in his mark. Then let him come. He looked at Asha's fading form. Because this time, I'm not rewriting for power. He raised his hand, the pen blazing like a newborn sun. I'm writing for mercy. The world trembled. The rift screamed. And somewhere between creation and erasure, a lost planet began to stir again. The rift burned brighter than any star. Its edges bled gold, white, and black all at once, colors that shouldn't exist together. Jackson stood in its center, his hand raised, the pen's light spilling from his palm like liquid fire. The air was alive with stories, whispers of forgotten worlds, fragments of erased souls begging to be remembered. Kale and Nara hovered near him, their bodies outlined in starlight, their voices low and tense. Father, Kale warned, if you write here, the ledger keeper will awaken in full. He'll erase everything, even Verax. Jackson didn't look away from the swirling void. Then we'll make him see something worth keeping. The child Asha stood behind them, her fading outline glowing faintly. She looked up at the man who had accidentally traded her world away and said softly, will it hurt? Jackson smiled through the tears burning his eyes. Only for a moment, sweetheart. But then, it'll all come back. The rift rumbled. The void split open, and from within stepped the ledger keeper. He was colossal now, no longer bound by form, his body made of entire constellations and shattered galaxies. His voice rolled like thunder over oceans that no longer existed. You cannot return what was balanced, he said. The price has been paid. Creation cannot exist without deletion. Jackson's jaw clenched. Then I'll pay twice. He lifted the pen, and the mark on his palm flared, brighter than any sun. The ground beneath them melted into light. Words spiraled upward, forming sentences in the air, living text bending around him like a shield. Sirex's voice echoed faintly from the other side of the rift, breaking through static and storms. Jackson, don't do this. If you write against him, the pen will consume you. He closed his eyes. Then let it consume the part of me that's still afraid. The ledger keeper roared, extending his arms. The void around them shattered into panels of glass, each one showing a different universe, each reflecting Jackson's face. In some, he was a hero. In others, a ghost. In one, he was already dead. You are anomaly, the ledger keeper thundered. You infect the story with choice. Jackson stepped forward. Then let choice rewrite everything. He stabbed the air with the pen. Light erupted in a spiral. The fragments of the lost world began to merge. Oceans, mountains, cities of glass, and rivers of silver memory flowing back into form. But the energy tore at him too, peeling his memories apart. He saw his past flicker like broken film. His first home on Earth, the rover in the desert, Syrex's hand reaching for his, Nara's first cry, Kale's laughter. Nara screamed, "Father, stop! You're breaking apart." "I know," he whispered. "But if I stop, she stays gone." Asha reached toward him. Her tiny hand touched the light spilling from his. "Thank you," she whispered. "We'll remember your name." The ledger keeper moved to strike, raising his colossal hand. But before he could, Kale and Nara stood together, side by side, glowing so brightly the void itself recoiled. "He is not anomaly," they said in unison. "He is origin." Their power surged, two forces born of love and destiny. Kale's golden energy met Nara's storm-gray light, intertwining into something entirely new. Human will fused with royal essence. The twins raised their hands toward the ledger keeper, and every erased soul in the void turned to face him. A million voices spoke at once. "We choose to exist." The ledger keeper froze. His stars dimmed. His endless eyes blinked for the first time. Jackson used that moment. He wrote one final line in the air, every word carved in pure emotion, not in ink, not in light, but in truth. "No world deserves to be forgotten." The pen burst, releasing a wave that tore across the rift. It didn't destroy, it rewrote. The erased world returned, not as it had been, but reborn, its people breathing again, its skies whole, its name sung through the void, Asha Prime. The ledger keeper fell silent. His body cracked, pieces of constellations falling like rain. Then his voice softened, almost human. "You have written mercy into the law." He bowed his massive head, fading into dust. "Then the balance is yours to bear, author." The rift closed. Jackson collapsed, the pen's mark burning down to a faint silver scar. The children caught him as the light around them faded. Kale whispered, "Father, you did it." Jackson smiled weakly. "No, we did it." The silence returned, but this time, it was peaceful, the kind that follows a song well sung. Days later, Verax's skies were brighter than ever. Two moons now orbited the planet, one gold, one gray. The people called them the Twins of Dawn. Asha Prime shimmered in the night sky, a new world reborn, proof that even gods could be corrected by the human heart. Jackson walked through the royal gardens, the scar on his palm glowing softly. Nara and Kale ran ahead, laughing again, free at last. Syrexa joined him, her eyes warm. "You changed the law itself," she said. He smiled faintly. "I didn't change it. I just reminded it to feel." As the stars shifted above, forming new constellations, a single phrase appeared faintly across the sky, glowing like a secret signature. Written by a human. And somewhere, deep in the ink-dark space between stories, the ledger keeper's whisper lingered. "Every story ends, but some endings rewrite the universe itself."